So, you've booked your flights and you've seen those photos and TikTok reels of those stunning landscape of New Zealand, and you're ready to set foot on the trip of a lifetime through New Zealand. Fantastic! The first thing you need to do is forget everything you know about driving. But before I start this video on how to drive like a Kiwi, I would like to just read through the section that our lawyers have informed us that we must legally oblige because they're kind of terrified about this video. This is a work of fiction and satire only. The contents of this guide are intended strictly for comedic entertainment and illustrative purposes. They do not constitute actual advice, instruction, or guidance for operating a motor vehicle anywhere in the world, and particularly not within jurisdiction of New Zealand. Do not follow this advice. Any and all driving techniques, road code interpretations, etiquette, suggestions, or philosophical musings presented herein are intentionally dangerous, illegal, and or in direct contravention of the New Zealand Road Code set by the Waka Kotahi New Zealand Transport Agency. The author, publisher, and any associated entities expressly disclaim any and all liabilities for loss, damage, injury, including death, traffic infringements, criminal discharges, insurance claims, or matrimonial disputes arising from any persons foolishly attempting to implement the actions, behaviors, or attitudes described in this video. If you're looking for actual advice, I suggest you go read up on the New Zealand Road Code instead of trusting the words of someone who believes that meat pies are part of the food group. New Zealand has some of the best, windiest, funnest roads to drive in the world, and as many potholes as the moon's got craters. But don't worry, if you've just stepped off a 14-hour flight, now is the perfect time to get into your rental car and start driving directly down south towards the South Island until you hit the Inter-Islander ferry terminal, only to realize you kind of have to book that ferry in advance. Now on that faithful drive, you'll see how amazing of a driver an average Kiwi driver truly is. And I want to make this video for you so that you don't stick out like a sore thumb and you can blend in the second you set foot on the pedestal. For those of you who come from more civilized lands with four-way traffic stops, let me introduce you to the New Zealand's favourite traffic experiment, the roundabout. Think of it as a merry-go-round for cars. It is designed to test your courage, your determination, your resilience, as well as your insurance quality. The ultimate goal of a roundabout is to try and merge into a vortex of moving cars who refuses to acknowledge your presence or your being as a human at all. Usually, before a roundabout, there's also a sign that says "give way." Typically, this is actually misinterpreted because what it actually says is to give up. The right way to approach a roundabout is to inch forward until someone gives up to their nerves, giving you the open space that you're entitled to. Now, indicating on a roundabout is some serious business. It's like an interpretive dance. The right thing to do is that you don't signal as you go straight, or technically 180 degrees. If you're going right or doing a U-E, you signal right and signal left as you exit. If you're turning left, you signal left. Pretty simple, right? Now, that is unless you forget or just don't care and you signal randomly just to confuse the guy behind you. Typically, no signal at all is the preferred local custom, let's say. And if you're in really polite company, maybe you just flick on the left indicator as you're just about to exit the roundabout. Now, if you're on a multi-lane roundabout, the outside ring is for scenic tours, and the inside ring is for high-speed slinging it out like you are a rocket ship. However, feel free to switch lanes at any point without indicating, like people normally do here anyway, and this is preferable as just before you're about to leave the roundabout anyway, so you cut across right in the middle of somebody who's trying to go right. Bonus points if you stop dead in the middle, or because you got confused or you couldn't really tell which exit the Google Maps told you to actually get out at. And hey, if you miss the exit, that's perfectly fine. It goes in a circle. Now you're legally obliged to go around in that circle until the passenger next to you froze up. Then you can exit. Next up is our traffic lights. Now let me explain how these work in New Zealand, because you might be under the assumption that they work the same way that they do everywhere else in the world. But no. That is different here. Traffic lights here is not a system of order, but a dramatic three-stage play that's played at every intersection that you approach. Each color change indicates a new round of indecision. I'm going to start off with the yellow lights because I think it's the most important one. The yellow lights, when you see them in New Zealand, is the sign for you to make a mad dash. It is the final beep of a countdown just before the drag race. The appearance of that yellow light should trigger your primal instinct to press down on the accelerator as hard as you can so that you can clear that red light. Now, if the light turns red and you fail to drag past the yellow lights, then now it's your turn to stop at the shortest distance that your car can possibly handle. Slam on your brakes and test your ABS system and stop your car halfway past the white lines and straight into the pedestrian crossing. And no, don't back up because someone's already parked 2 inches behind you. Lastly, it's a green light. Now, green does not mean go, okay? Green means finish your makeup, finish your phone call, finish your text, finish collecting your thoughts, and then go. Now, that is unless if you get a honk from the car behind you, then you pull off a 6 skiddy and you ride off as fast as you can, but just late enough so that the car right behind you gets stuck on the next red lights anyway. And lastly, we have these lollipop crossings in New Zealand, where it's meant to be that the car stops if there's any pedestrians that's willing to cross. However, this is more of a duel. On one side, you'll see a child or a pensioner. On the other, 2 tons of moving metal. Victory and who stops is not really determined by the road code, but the sheer intensity of the eye contact you make with the driver or the kid makes with you. Then we have our general road etiquette in New Zealand. The road is a wild ecosystem where different species of drivers coexist in a delicate, chaotic balance. Speed limits are an abstract concept at best, irrelevant to the flow of the herd. Those numbers on the signs, think of them as more of a speed minimum, okay, for the slow lane. The actual speed limit is determined by the vehicle behind you, and if it is Ford Ranger, best of luck to you. However, if you're the one with the U, congratulations, because you are now the alpha of the ecosystem. Your natural hunting method is to stalk weaker prey at 2 centimeters from the bumper until they give up and pull off to the side of the road so you can go speeding past them. Then we have the open road sign. This means drive as fast as the car in front of you is going, because the cops are only going to pull over one car, and it's always the asshole on the front, not everybody else who was keeping up with him at 180 kilometers per hour. Stop signs are a mere suggestion, and twisty road times doesn't mean drive carefully, it means there's fun times up ahead. Is a car trying to overtake you on the right hand side? We can't have that. That's nonsense. What an entitled prick. No. What we do is we speed up just enough so the asshole can't overtake us, and then when he gives up and falls back in line like he's meant to, you slow right down so that he thinks he can overtake again, and then you rinse and repeat until he gives up and goes home crying. You're driving through Auckland, you got gridlock traffic, and you got to change lanes? That's perfect. You don't really need to indicate, just turn your wheel and start vibing it out. And someone will give up usually, and they'll let you in. In the same vein as merging, especially getting onto the motorway, what you do is you drive as far as the lane allows, and then you just kind of inch your way in, and just hope that someone will give up and pull over so that you can actually get into the traffic. Now, if that doesn't happen, you just get to share insurance contact. And if you don't have insurance, well, it's probably not really your problem anyway. Now, on the road, you may occasionally see flashing headlights at you. This can mean just about anything. It's a very primitive language. It could mean, good on you, cheers. It could also mean cops. Or it could also mean, screw you and your entire existence. I don't know who you are, but I just hate you. Could be any of those. Pick one you like. And if you're driving at night, make sure your high beams are on at all times, even through town. How else are the other cars meant to know that you're coming their way? And if someone flashes their lights at you, they're just saying that they're really proud of how bright your lights are and that they can really see you from afar away. So flash your lights back at them and go on with your merry way. And in New Zealand, we always constantly have tons of roadworks. Why? Because poor roadwork isn't a sign of incompetency, but is a sign of job security. Now, this means you'll see tons of cones. Don't worry about them. They're pretty much our national flower anyway. And the temporary speed limit that you'll see is only applicable if you see workers on the side of the road who are actually holding a tool, which isn't guaranteed even if you do see actual workers at a construction site. Now, aside from our well-paved roads, we also have our rural roads. Now, rural roads aren't really infrastructure, they're more of an untamed frontier, an adventure course masquerading as a highway. Driving on them is an off-road experience on a technically on-road part of the road. You're out of the city now, and everything's going to be a bit different. Now we have these things called one-lane bridges. Simple etiquette here. If you see another car, you speed up as fast as you can. The little sign with the little and big arrows is just there to confuse tourists like you. First one there wins. A friendly wave and a blink of the hazards afterwards as you pass them means no harm done. Blind corner or hill, that means it's the perfect overtaking spot. Painted lines are just a polite decoration. Double points if you pass them on a blind corner cresting into a hill with a concealed exit sign on it. And while you're passing, make sure that you don't indicate, as indicators are like appendixes. They're just a useless evolutionary remnant, really. Their sudden, unexpected use is more often startling to those people than no use at all. Could be more dangerous than leaving them alone otherwise. If you feel like you must use them, they're best used halfway already through a corner, or after you've already turned all the way in. Make sure to leave it on for the next 14 kilometers until someone flashes their lights at you to tell you that you've left it on. Now, rural fuel stops are another kind of fun. And you don't really need to stop for petrol, but you stop there for a pie and an energy drink, or a pie, a ciggy, and some chocolate milk, which is 90% sugar. The petrol is usually just an excuse anyway. Remember to leave your car at the pump while you browse for 15 minutes. It saves your spot. It's not really your problem that other people have places to be. And there's usually only one pump anyway. And lastly, if you're driving rurally, there's bound to be 200 sheep on the road or an escaped cow from the paddock nearby. And they have to right away, and they know it. Now, you've arrived at your destination. Make sure that you don't embarrass yourself when you're parking. Here is how it's done. Parking is a form of public art piece. You know, a driver will attempt a complex 17-point turn to fit a small hatchback into the size of a bus depot, all while a captive audience of waiting cars look on in silent judgment. Remember that anywhere is a car park if you're grabbing something quickly, especially from the bolo. Bus stops, flush medians, loading zones, if your hazard lights are on, you've activated a cloak of legal invisibility. I'm fairly certain that's in the law anyway. If you must park somewhere with lines, you just gotta remember that the white lines are more of a suggestions than a boundary. A car is considered parked when the engine is off, not because of where it is. Taking up 2 spots isn't greed, that's just a statement of your presence. Parking across 3 of them, on the other hand, is just your way of showing everybody how big your car is. And if your destination was to go shopping, make sure that you take care of the trolley the right way by leaving it just randomly in the parking lot. Now, these shopping trolleys just become wild animals as their return is just entirely optional. They're released into the car park to roam free and gently migrating with the wind until they rest against the paint of a newly purchased car. And lastly, in New Zealand, the weather is an active participant in your driving experience, randomly deploying hazards to keep things interesting. Drivers respond not with caution, but with a collective citywide amnesia about how a car works. The moment it rains, you really have 2 choices. You either forget where the accelerator is and drive 20 kilometers below the speed limit with your wipers on the fastest possible setting the entire time, or pretend it isn't raining and tailgate the person in front of you as usual, relying entirely on their brake lights to warn you about the impending pileup. There's not really an in-between. If it's not raining, it's sun strikes. Now, this is something you really need to learn how to use. If you ever make a mistake, run a red light, rear-end someone, drift into another lane, just get out of the car, squint really hard at it, and point at the sky. And just say, "Sorry mate, bloody sunstrike, eh?" And you're immediately absorbed of all blame. Lastly, we have the fog, a mysterious mist that descends upon the motorway, causing 50% of the drivers to slow to a crawl in the right-hand lane with no lights on, and the other 50% to continue driving at 110 kilometers per hour with just their high beams, just to see what happens. And there you have it. That's how you drive in New Zealand. Remember, rules are guidelines, and guidelines are suggestions, and suggestions are for other people. You'll know you've mastered the art of Kiwi driving if you can do a 3-point turn in a busy intersection while simultaneously answering a text, eating a sausage roll, and giving a quick confused wave onto the incoming vehicle. You only really need to remember one phrase, which acts as a total and complete get out of jail free card for any infractions. No matter how egregious, you just say, "She'll be right, mate." Say it with a shrug, say it after a near miss, say it to the police officer. It implies that things might be terrible right now, but inevitably it'll sort itself out anyway. And really, doesn't that mean you're not really responsible for anything? So strap in, don't indicate, and trust the universe. The South Island awaits, and I hope you enjoy your New Zealand driving experience. Thank you for watching. I would really like to reiterate that this is not legal advice. This will not hold up in a court of law. I just wanted something funny while I make a commentary on how people drive in New Zealand. I hope this comes across as satire plenty, and it won't land me in court. Anyway, I hope you have a good one. Take care of yourselves. Peace.